Welcome back to the Bottom Line Podcast with Ben, Willey, and Dorazio. No episode last week. Do you want to share the details of what was a horror story breaking live in front of us?
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff that happened. We first off, I was under the weather, so that didn't help. I wasn't feeling the best. I think I feel about 100% or at least close enough to 100%. But yeah, I was under the weather for starters, and then we went to a new location, which we thought was going to be a better location, and it still could be, but we're still trying to work out some kinks with the internet there. But we basically recorded a whole episode. We had to pause halfway through because there was a group of kids outside that were trying to like get into the studio or something.
They were just trying to be a live audience. They were just we were trying to record our podcast room, which is soundproof on three sides and has a glass wall.
Yeah.
And around the 20-minute mark, these group of kids just start staring at us. So we thought they had like a reserved time for this room. So we paused the podcast, opened the door. Hey, do you guys need in here? No, we were just watching. So then we resumed, but short, the internet was terrible and our audio was like unbearable. The video kept cutting in and out. So no episode last week. We intend to record an episode, so we're sorry about that. But hey, we're back now, and there was the most important week to have this week because it's Super Bowl week, baby. That's what we've been waiting for the entirety of the season.
Yeah,
obviously Dolphins and Eagles aren't making it, but this should still be another great Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, it's kind of it was almost like a blessing in disguise that we didn't get to record because now we get to cover a little bit of everything, a little bit more. Just in general, the extra week gives us more time to prep, gives us more time to talk about the actual matchup, and we can still go over the games from I guess that's almost 2 weeks ago. It feels like forever, really. It feels like it's been like a month from those games, but it was like just last week.
I know, it really does. Time flies. So we talk about those games real quick. Obviously, it's the 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch of a few Super Bowls ago. But
yeah,
I mean, the path of how these teams got there. I mean, I know it's winding back to clock a little bit, but this was a really interesting path because the Ravens were kind of the favorites coming out of the AFC. At least that's what Las Vegas had, and
I think that's what everyone had.
That's what everybody had, except you. Apparently, you predicted this Chiefs win. So I mean, talk about what you saw in this game. This was a 17-10 game where, I mean, this Chiefs defense just carried the load. I mean, obviously Patrick Mahomes had his moments, his clutch moments, which we will give Patrick Mahomes his props here in just a few minutes. But credit this Chiefs defense because they shut down this Ravens running game. They shut down Lamar Jackson better than any team has this season, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens have been the team to beat pretty much the whole season. I mean, every good time team they've played in a big stage, they've kind of just blown them out of the water, and it really hasn't been close. We saw it with the Niners. We saw it with the Lions. We've seen it multiple times where every time they have a big matchup going into the game, they steamroll the team. And in this game, it looked like, that everyone kind of expected that to be the same story. The matchup was in favor for them. And like you said, the Chiefs defense just kind of showed up. They limited the run game early, gave Mahomes a chance to kind of take the lead early and then play with a lead. And when this defense plays with a lead, they're really, really hard to beat. And that's something we haven't seen is this Chiefs team is finally embracing the new Chiefs. They're not trying to play like the old Chiefs. They know what they're good at now. And they can still win at the highest level. I mean, we're seeing they're fighting for a Super Bowl this upcoming weekend. They can still win at the highest level, even if it's not the same old high-flying Chiefs we're used to. But
I think we even saw shades of that, though, because what I really noticed from this game was Travis Kelce just
they looked comfortable.
Coming out of nowhere. I mean, for what we've seen of Travis Kelce, this is more of a down year in terms of regular season success. Yeah. Still by far probably the best tight end in football, but for his standards, a down year. But here he comes postseason.
This was time. Vintage Travis Kelce.
11 catches, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, blowing kisses to Taylor in the stands. But I mean, I'll tell you what, this is kind of what we see, I think, of Rob Gronkowski of his later years with the Patriots, where kind of dials it back in the regular season, but when playoff time, he just flips that switch. I think that's what we're starting to see with Travis Kelce, where he's starting to get up there with age. Yeah. Maybe this body can't handle the stress of going 100% for the whole regular season.
Yeah.
So he maybe dials it back a little bit, but come postseason time, I mean, he's ready to go. I mean,
and they need him, and it's showing. Like they really have needed him for this run. We saw with the game against Buffalo, he was big in that game, and even the game against the Dolphins.
And credit the Chiefs receivers because they've gotten a lot of slack over the regular season.
Especially Valdez-Scantling with that big catch in the game on the line.
Absolutely.
With how much slack and criticism he's gotten, especially. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, credit to them because
they're making the plays right now. They are. They are.
I mean,
doing what's asked for them.
They're standing on business, as they would say. They're not running away from the hate. They're kind of just they're taken that negativity and they're feeding off it. So,
and we'll keep this real quick, so it's kind of old news. But where do the Ravens go for here? Because they're kind of a similar situation as to what the Bills are,
right.
as like a great regular season team in the AFC that just cannot get over that Chiefs, that Patrick Mahomes hump.
Yeah.
And they've kind of established this core of players the past few years with Lamar Jackson, all those veteran guys on that defense. And I mean, just each year they just can't go over that hump. I mean, where do they go from here? Obviously, they lost their defensive coordinator McDaniel, who goes to the Seahawks, which was a great hire, which we'll talk about that a bit later on. So, I mean, lots of question marks in Baltimore and Buffalo right now. I feel like both those teams are kind of asking the same questions.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the advantages of waiting an extra week to record, or not waiting, I guess, but things happening the way they did is because we found a lot about this Ravens team out in the last week. I mean, you said Mike McDonald ended up getting a job in Seattle, which is what a great hire that is. I think that fits the culture, what they're looking for.
Gets the youngest head coach now in the league.
Exactly. I believe they just hired both their coordinators. So I believe Todd Monken and Todd Monken, I think, got the job, and then I don't remember the new. I think it's their like linebackers coach got the job in Baltimore. People thought it was going to be the D-line coach, which ended up going to the Dolphins, who's now their defensive coordinator. So they're losing guys left and right. Like you said, just based off the team standpoint, I mean, the contracts are expiring. They're still going to have to pay Odell a bunch of money.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys they got to pay, and there's a lot of guys I don't think they can pay.
Mark Andrews, he's going to be due for a new
Mark
contract.
Andrews going to be due. I mean, a lot of these guys, and guys are getting old. I mean, a lot of their defense was old this year. And they're kind of on that last leg, like you said. There's a lot of question marks still on the table. I think more for Baltimore than in Buffalo. That's just my take on it. But I think
more question marks with the Ravens.
Yes. I just think there's a little bit more to answer. I think you still wonder if Lamar can get it done.
You just don't know, because I mean, he's probably going to win another MVP. We're going to find out here very soon.
He will.
But this is he's had a couple MVP. If he wins, this will be a second MVP. But I mean, this has been so many seasons now where this has been this against his legacy. He never wins the big games. Same thing with Josh Allen. They're pretty much in the same identical situation where they just don't win the big games. I mean, I remember going to this game. This was Lamar, save us all. I mean, pretty much the whole country was backing the Ravens, and they finally had home field advantage for the first time in the
NFC Championship. Was rocking,
and they still just could not get the job done. They just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they folded. The whole offense folded on the biggest stage. I mean, they had just many countless like stupid errors that they just kept making the whole game.
And then the other matchup on the NFC side between the 49ers and Detroit Lions, and man, what a doozy this was, because I mean, we talked about during the canceled show, but it was looking like Detroit was actually going to pull off this incredible upset.
There was a good 30 minutes. I was sitting in my dorm room watching this game like, oh my gosh, the Lions are going to the Super Bowl. Like, this is happening. And I was like, I was convinced. I don't know about you. Like, I really thought this game was over. Like,
I thought it was over up until that Brandon Ayuk fluke play where
that's when I knew something was happening.
Tipped off the hands and into Ayuk for like a 50-yard touchdown, what should have been an interception. I was like, oh no, here comes the Lion. And the Lions lost the most Lions way possible. But I mean, all things considered, obviously, if you're a Lions fan, you can't hang your head on what was
not
an incredible year. And now you're pretty much running it back because Ben Johnson, he's saying, we're going to talk about him a little bit later on.
And Aaron Glenn staying. It's pretty much, you take the same guys you had, you run it back.
And that tells you the culture Dan Campbell's created for not one, but two coordinators who were top head coach candidates. They
both got interviews.
For both of them to stay. I mean, that tells you they had something special. They did not want to leave.
Yeah, and they're going to have salary cap to spend. I don't think they're going to bring everyone back. They'll probably lose a couple guys, but they're going to draft. They have all their draft picks once again, tons of money to spend. This team's going to get better and better, and their young guys are going to get better. We probably haven't even seen the best form of a Sam Laporta, a Jahmyr Gibbs. Even a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown will continue to develop, and that's a scary thought for the NFC.
No, I agree. And then on the 49ers side, I mean, credit Brock Purdy, because this was kind of a mini legacy game. I don't want to go legacy because he's still young in his career. But I mean, people were wondering, is this guy Super Bowl caliber? I mean, this is Mr. Irrelevant. Is he really going to be the guy for us? And in the first half, it was kind of like he couldn't. But I mean, he made some big time plays in that second half. Give him credit. Didn't do anything too shocking, but he played good enough in an NFC championship, pretty much almost as bright as it gets, other than the Super Bowl, and led his team to an impressive comeback victory in a game where they really didn't get the run game going all that much. I mean, McCaffrey ended up getting 2 touchdowns, but only had, 20 carries for 90 yards. For what the 49ers have been doing all year, that's probably one of their weaker running performances. And Brock Purdy found a way to get the job done with an injured Deebo Samuel as well.
Yeah, I mean, Deebo was not 100%, I think the big thing for Purdy to point out is, like you said, it's never been pretty. It's
No.
never been. There's been ups, there's been downs, but for what you've gotten out of him, considering the pick he was taken, the stock he was taken, and just what he's done for this team, has just been, I mean, everything you could have ever asked for. And I think what Purdy provides to this team that we haven't seen out of previous quarterbacks who've done this system, who've been in this scheme and have won, is ability to extend plays and play make. And it's not like he's a scrambler. He's not a Lamar guy. He's not a Kyler. He's not going to wow you with his legs, but he does just enough.
Kind of reminds me of like a Joe Burrow-esque in terms of pocket presence.
Yeah.
I mean, not to the ability of Burrow, but like enough to extend plays, like you said.
Yeah, it's enough to at least get out of the pocket, extend plays. He'll occasionally scramble. He's not gonna run 70 yards for a touchdown, but he'll pick up a nice chunk 15 if the play's there. And I think we never saw that out of a guy like Garoppolo. We never saw that out of a guy like Alex Smith back in the day. Even a guy like Trey Lance was never that mobile enough to really do it at the highest level for this offense. And Brock Purdy's done all of that.
He's able to make the plays that Jimmy G can't. I think that's a good way to phrase it.
Because he could still do the in-system stuff, but when it's out of system, he has just enough, enough of an ability to play make that it makes that Brandon Ayuk play does not happen if it's Jimmy G.
No, I mean, a lot of people forget about that play that Brock Purdy evaded an incredible sack escape to lead to that big play.
Yeah,
everyone talks about the fluke touchdown, but I mean, credit Brock Purdy for even giving Ayuk a chance to catch a ball to receive.
Yeah, I mean, there were multiple plays in this game. There's like a third down, a conversion that he ran for like 20 yards. Like these plays don't happen. Give Brock Purdy his flowers. I really think we are undervaluing what he's doing. And no matter how easy it is to play quarterback in a scheme like that, you still got to do it.
As much as I hate it, because I know the Eagles and Niners kind of have a really strong dislike for one another. I mean, we said from the year, from our very first episode we had together, we both said when the Niners are playing their best football, they're the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
And they've ran the table, and now they're going to the Super Bowl. And it's kind of funny. So it turns out at the beginning of the year, two completely different paths than we expected. But beginning of the NFL season, these were pretty much the two favorites. And then midway through the season, both these teams were kind of leaving the picture. Then at the end of the year,
they both had some dark times. There was some dark times for both these teams.
Yeah, I mean the Chiefs, that you think that lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day. I mean, that was just under a month and a half ago. That seems like it was a whole year ago. And for the 49ers, excuse me, they had a 3-game stretch in a row where they just kept losing games. But here they both are making the Super Bowl, a rematch of a few years ago, because it was interesting. Because I was thinking back, I actually watched some of the highlights of that last Super Bowl between these two teams, between Jimmy G, Patrick Mahomes, that Super Bowl. And I look at these two teams now. The 49ers team seems a bit better than that team. Yeah. The Chiefs team seems a little bit worse than that team. But the Chiefs beat the 49ers. So on paper, I feel like it's pretty much as dead even of a matchup as it gets. I mean, this is a tough pick. I mean, what are you expecting to see from this game? Maybe let's not give away our picks just yet, but what are you kind of expecting to see?
This will be an interesting game. I don't know. I expect this to be more of a defensive matchup. I think both teams' defenses stack up well against the offenses. I know probably people are still going to doubt Mahomes in that offense because they've done it all year, and I don't blame them. I'm just saying I think we're not giving them enough credit for what they've done these past couple weeks, but I expect this to be more of a defensive bout. I think the team that can affect the quarterback the most is going to be the one that wins this game. You're going to have to, whoever wins this game is going to have to make a play on the quarterback. We saw it last year with Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. The team that won that game was the one team that made a turnover against and took it for 6. But even if you don't take it for 6, they made a play, and it's going to be one of those type of games. And I fully expect this to be a close game. I think this is going to be a pretty evenly matched game, but
don't say your pick just yet.
No, I won't. But okay. I'm intrigued by this matchup. I see this going a multitude of ways. There's so many ways to win this game. I mean, these are the two best teams for a reason. So I mean, it's really like you would think it'd be the easiest thing to break down, but it's so difficult to like really. I mean, there's a reason this is like not an easy pick.
No, and it's really interesting because you think the Chiefs, you think of the offensive firepower, but as you said when you're breaking down the AFC Championship, it's really the Chiefs defense that has kind of just been the backbone of this team throughout the entire year.
Yeah. I mean, it was starting to happen last year a little bit. I mean, I think the offense took a step back, but really this year it's been the offense took a big step back. The defense is really just, I mean, like you said,
this will be the 49ers' toughest test defensively, at least in terms of their postseason games. Because you think of their path, they had the Packers, then they had Detroit, and now they have to jump up to Kansas City. And I know Detroit and the Packers, they're tough teams, but their defense is, at least in my opinion, nowhere close to the tier that the Chiefs have been on all
No.
year long, and especially considering the fact the Chiefs' defensive line specifically. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the anchor of this team. You think of Chris Long or Chris Jones. You think of all those top studs on that defensive line. The whole thing for the 49ers is that offense opens up and they can run the football.
Yeah.
That Chiefs defense is best at stopping the run. So I
Yeah.
think that's going to be the matchup to watch throughout the game is the 49ers running attack versus that Chiefs defensive line. And in my opinion, whichever team wins that matchup is probably going to win this game. That's my honest opinion.
Well, we see on the Chiefs side of the ball that this offense has kind of become Isaiah Pacheco's offense. I know we love to talk about Patrick Mahomes, but it's really been Pacheco's offense the whole year. They've given him the ball.
And even Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's kind of had a bounce back season. They kind of had that 1-2.
He hasn't been great, but he's been better.
But I mean, with the touches he's had, I think he's been a bit more explosive than in years past for
sure.
Agree. But again, Pacheco, I mean, he's kind of just taking
he's been the workhorse of this offense. I know even in the passing game, they put him in screens, they do dump downs to him. He's been the lead guy in this offense.
I know he gets made fun of and memed a lot just because of like how he looks when he runs, kind of looks like a walking hurricane. But I mean, give the man credit. He's a workhorse.
He's a dog.
That's the best way to put it. He is a dog.
Yeah,
Isaiah Pacheco is a dog.
He runs with force. He runs with a purpose. He's one of those guys. Like, as much as we make fun of him for the way he runs, like, it's just, you could tell like he doesn't waste a single movement of his body. He puts his head down, goes in there, and he finds a way to just keep going. It's weird. It's a weird style of running that we're not used to.
Yeah, no, it's very unique indeed. So let's transition here. Let's go into our picks
for
the Super Bowl. And again, we don't know what each other is about to say. The spread, which shocked. I want to talk about the spread for just a couple minutes here.
It's like 2 or 3, right?
Well, yeah, I'm surprised that San Francisco is favored. They're 1.5 favored. It's just
that doesn't surprise me.
You think that the spread doesn't surprise you? I was surprised myself. The spread. I thought KC was going to be favored for sure. Personally,
I think everyone's still disrespecting this KC team, and I don't know why. We're in the Super Bowl by now. Like, what left do they have to prove to you besides winning it? I think people have kind of established that the Niners is the powerhouse team the whole season, and they're just riding on that. I mean, even after they barely snuck by the Packers, they were still favored against the Lions, who had an impressive 2 first rounds of performances. So, like, I mean, I don't know. I think the spread's spot on.
Well, you think the spread's spot on, so I'll go first this time. Usually you go first. I'll go first this time. This may shock you. Okay. There's a common phrase. So it was Chiefs Bills.
Okay.
I picked the Bills. Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Then it was Chiefs Ravens. Chiefs won that one. I picked the Ravens. Fool me twice, shame on me. I will not be shamed a third time. Patrick Mahomes, I went against him twice. He's proven wrong both times. I mean,
who picked both those games?
Hey, I'll do a shake.
I will never disrespect him ever again.
I'll do a shake on that. But I mean, Patrick Mahomes, this is his 4th Super Bowl in 6 appearances. The moment's not too big for the guy. I mean, pretty much from the roster top to bottom, they know the feeling. They know what it's like to be in this moment. Fortnite, most of that roster does as well. I mean, outside of one guy.
See, that's the thing to point out here is like as much as a lot of things have changed from these two teams, there's still a lot that's the same. I mean, there's Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, those guys. I mean, they were there. Those guys were all there.
I remember there was an iconic clip from when the 49ers lost to the Chiefs of George Kittle mic'd up.
Oh, and he said, "I'll be back here again," or something like that.
And he's back against the same exact team. So what a storyline. But it's just so hard to bet against the Chiefs. I just can't do it in these big games. They just always find a way. They're like the modern day Patriots, where I mean, if they're making that to that Super Bowl, more likely than not, they're going to win it. And especially Mahomes coming in as an underdog. I mean, he's kind of been viewed as the underdog this whole playoff run. I think he's taking that personally.
This will be the 4th straight game he's the underdog.
A little bit, which that's just crazy. I mean, Patrick Mahomes an underdog for 4 games in a row. I mean, that's just wild.
Or no, 3rd straight.
Third straight. Yeah, 3rd straight.
They were favored against the Dolphins.
Yeah, so 3 games in a row as an underdog. I'm gonna keep rocking with the Chiefs. It might be an emotional pick because I don't want the Niners to win as an Eagles fan, but I genuinely think just with the Chiefs' experience, with all the firepower with Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, they know the moment.
Yeah,
it won't be too big for them. I got the Chiefs in a close one, in 1 possession game for sure. At least that's how I see it.
So I've been torn on this. I really have like a tough time picking this game, and I think when I have a tough time picking a matchup, I go back to I think I stick on a couple things of what does the matchup say, what does history say, and what do I say?
I like that.
So
what do I say?
So we'll start with the matchup. I think the matchup probably favors the Niners.
I mean, that's what the spread would say as well. Which
I think the matchup favors the Niners. I think there's enough. I think they just have more firepower to cover for their weaknesses than the Chiefs do.
Okay.
Okay. What does history say? History says the Chiefs should dominate this because they've beaten them every time they've played against each other. And they, like you said, they've been here before. If there's any team that has experienced this moment more than any other team that's in the league right now, and based off the roster, the personnel, all that, it's the Chiefs.
So long story short, your formula is kind of pointless in this case. It still comes down to what you think.
So what do I say? I don't know. Well, see, it's tough because I really, I've been a huge advocate for this Chiefs team. And
I thought you were going to pick the Chiefs. I thought it was going to be a no-brainer. Chiefs win.
Here's what I think I'm settling on. Okay, I've been an advocate for this Chiefs team, and I think I'm probably one of the only people that thought they would make it this far. But what? There's no uh-oh here. I think they're finally going to run into their test. I think it's going to hit that wall. There's no disrespect to the Ravens or the Bills. I just don't think they're the team that the Niners are. And I think they kind of snuck by both those games by the scrape of their finger. Especially the Buffalo game. That was a close one. They probably could have lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're
sure at least went to overtime, and who knows what happens then.
Right. So I think they're finally going to, kind of hit that powerhouse team. I think the Niners are just going to be more prepared. I think the defense is going to get under Mahomes' skin a little bit more than what he probably saw. We think that the Ravens have a good defense. I think the Niners are on a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I just think I don't – part of me thinks that this Chiefs team is not going to be able to stop this Niners offense. I think the matchup, that West Coast scheme, they don't see it often. It's not – the only time you really see it in the AFC is when you see someone of Shanahan's disciples. If you see a Mike McDaniel, if you see
Shanahan's disciples.
Well, that's what they say. If you see one of those, there's a few teams. It's like the Dolphins, the Texans. I believe the Bengals run a sort of West Coast tennis scheme.
Close, yeah.
But there's not many of them. There's really not many of them. So I just don't know if they're going to be prepared for it. Give me the Niners in a shocking pick. I'm going to take the Niners by a very close margin. I really do think this Mahomes and this team is going to give them the kitchen sink. I just think it's not going to be enough. I think it's going to come down to like a last minute drive, and the Chiefs are just like.
I mean, at that point, what more can you ask for?
That's all you can ask for. But I think the Niners are just going to barely slip by.
Hey, thing to watch in this game: Jake Moody, Michigan alumni, rookie kicker in the Super Bowl. Always got to watch out there. Just saying, just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
rookie kicker in the Super Bowl.
I think the big matchup is that, and also the like you said, the Chiefs D line versus this Niners run game.
Yep,
they've got to put this game in Brock Purdy's hands. If they put it in Brock Purdy's hands, they might have a chance.
I would agree. I would agree with that completely. So let's move on here. Let's talk about the coaching carousel. So this is kind of a two-way slide. I have Ben Johnson as the graphic. This is kind of the Ben Johnson, but that kind of turned into a Commanders conversation because last week we were talking about how we wouldn't know who the Commanders head coach is going to be because kind of Ben Johnson or bust.
Yeah.
So Ben Johnson stays in Detroit. We already talked about a little bit. Credit Dan Campbell. Credit Ben Johnson. Honestly, I think a lot of people bashing Ben Johnson saying he's not head coach ready. I think he's head coach ready. I just think he loved this job so much where it was just hard for him to say goodbye. I think he'd make a phenomenal.
I think it's also the situation.
Yeah.
I just think you're going into an organization that has a bad history. There's a lot of questions you've got to answer. I think he's waiting for the right thing to come up.
Yeah, I mean, don't force it. I mean, stay another year.
Especially for your first chance. I feel like a lot of times in head coaching, when you get your first chance, you have to do well because if you don't work out the first time you do it, you usually don't get another.
I mean, how many one-time head coaches we've seen and they just fall off the face of the earth, never to be seen again.
And it's like you really only get one shot at it before people are like, nope, he's not good.
So Ben Johnson stays in Detroit, and the Commanders are kind of scrambling because at this point, all the top guys have already filled their vacancies, and they end up going with Dan Quinn, which, I mean, I don't hate the hire. I mean, he's had good success pretty much everywhere he's been head coach. The thing for him is he always lost the big games. But I think if you're a Washington Commanders fan, just getting to a somewhat big game would be a success in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate the hire. He has lots of connections. I mean, he was the guy that gave Kyle Shanahan a chance in Atlanta.
In his first week of being a head coach, he brought in Cliff Kingsbury, who is a massive hire.
So he can build a staff. I mean, I still think Dan Campbell was probably one of the weaker tier head coaches of this cycle. Probably, but I don't think by any stretch it was a bad hire.
No, I don't think it's a bad hire. Like I said, I've been very impressed with his staff building so far. He not only is he brought in one of the good I forget who he had as his DC, but it was really good DC, and then the Cliff's a huge thing. Let the Caleb Williams to Washington rumors start swirling.
But he was supposed to go to the Raiders. What did you think about that? Because that was kind of a little mini swerve.
Yeah, so it looked like he was taking the job for Vegas, and that was going to be. I thought that was an even more impressive hire than this Washington one. But I thought the Raiders getting him, that would have been massive for Antonio Pierce to really let them start building around that team. Instead, he ends up in Washington. And now it's like, okay, where do they go with that? So I think the big thing is they're probably doing it based off a quarterback. They're trying to get a true guy that can develop a quarterback. But who's that quarterback? Is it Sam Howell? Who knows? It's
not Sam Howell.
Is it Caleb Williams or Drake May?
Probably.
So who knows what's going to happen? I think, like I said, let the Caleb Williams to Washington rumors start swirling. And the fact that I can say that, and 9 months ago, if you told me that Caleb Williams might end up in Washington,
I'll tell you what,
that's crazy.
If the Commanders pull it off, credit.
That is a franchise-altering moment.
Credit Adam Pearson, his first move as GM to bring home Caleb Williams, coordinator he's most comfortable with, and bring in Caleb Williams, one of the top quarterback prospects we've seen for a Washington Commanders franchise that pretty much nothing has gone their way. I mean, think of everything that's gone wrong for that franchise through.
I mean, props for them to putting all their chips into the basket and really going for this.
I mean, what do they got to lose? I mean, look at their recent history.
Props to them for going all in here. I mean, there's nothing to lose.
Then in other news, this was another big one.
The big hire.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh is officially an LA Charger. He's the new head coach for the Chargers, and he's already starting to build his staff, which a lot of those pieces are coming from his Wolverine staff, which we kind of expected, even though it's a college staff. He runs an NFL scheme at Michigan. Those are NFL guys he brought in. So, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Herbert. You've always kind of been a bit spectacle, but I think we can at least both find a common ground where if Herbert can't find success with Jim Harbaugh, who's won at every level he's been
who's he going to find it with?
Stanford, the Niners, Michigan, success at all those levels. If Herbert can't get over that hump now, then I think
when is he going to get over it?
I'm not to draw the line there. I've defended this man through and through, but if he can't find success, at least by the end of the Harbaugh saga, I'll even give him a season maybe. But if by the end of the saga with Harbaugh, if he can't get it to work, then I think you guys start looking at who's the common denominator here.
I've been saying this. I've been trying to say this. I think this was an excellent hire. Let's start with that. I think this was the crown jewel of head coaches to be hired this offseason, and somehow the Chargers landed him. And I get it. I think
Jim's a former player there. I think that was a big
I was going to say, I think this was a perfect fit. I think having Justin Herbert there is such an intriguing, there's still a lot of young guys in this team that are talented players. A guy like Derwin James, we need to get him back to the level we know he can be at. A guy, even a guy like Bosa, if he could stay healthy, would be just such a massive addition. And guys like, Keenan Allen are still there. Mike Williams is still there.
They're rumored to I saw this report
that they're interested in Saquon.
Saquon Barkley to Chargers is like kind of turning to like the favorite landing spot if he's not staying in Giants.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think this was a good hire for them. I'm curious to see where they go from here. The staff is already being assembled, but like you said, I think it's a matter of if Harbaugh can. If this really is a Harbaugh or a Herbert hire.
Yeah.
If he can't get it together with Harbaugh, he's not going to get it together. And I think that's kind of they're drawing the line in the sand, saying, here, we're putting all our chips in the basket. Let's see what you got, kid.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really agree more with your analysis there. I mean, this is pretty much his last hurrah to kind of.
It's got to happen now, or it's not going to happen.
I really don't have much more to add there. I remember the Jim. I mean, he's a Michigan man. I see some Michigan fans online who are bashing, which absolutely baffles my mind. I mean,
I said the same thing about Deion Sanders when he left Jackson State for Colorado. I think this is so similar in the sense of if there is a better opportunity out there.
Well, not even that.
Why are you getting mad at that?
Well, not even that. He left Michigan with a national title. I mean, he set out what he
didn't leave them midseason. Yeah. He could have, especially with all the allegations. Yeah. He finished his job, brought them a national championship. He did what he said he was going to do, and now a better opportunity, more money. He can go live in Southern California with his family.
He's the best head coach in the history of the Michigan Wolverines. I mean, their last.
What else could you ask for?
I have nothing wrong with him leaving. Quite frankly, as much as I love him at Michigan, it just kind of feels right having him.
You feel happy for him.
Yeah, you feel happy for him. And then this was kind of breaking news. I mean, we have kind of a bottom line curse where we talk about like every week where.
You know what? I'm going to check right now while you're talking about this, just to make sure we're not missing anything live on the air here.
Like the past 5 episodes, typically record on Wednesdays, and we're recording on Wednesday right now at 6 p.m. This will air tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pretty much every week after we've aired, breaking news has come out right after the show without fault.
All right, we're clean. We're clean for right now.
We're clean for now. We'll just see what happens in the next 24 hours. But luckily for us, this came out just like minutes ago at the time of recording this. Nick Saban joining ESPN primarily as a college game day analyst. Did not really see this one coming. I thought
I saw this coming.
I thought Nick Saban was coming one of those guys that just kind of laid low, did his own thing, brought to the sunset. But he's joining game day as an analyst, so that should be pretty interesting. That should make for some good TV for sure.
I think this was kind of, I don't know if you knew about this. I think this was kind of the assumption when he retired. He was great on TV. Every time he goes on TV, when he does.
Well, he did do some. I do remember doing stand-ups on the ESPN Gaming Desk when Alabama was eliminated for like national championship. I do remember that. Yes.
He's got a good mind for the game. He's very articulate with his thoughts. He's been on the Pat McAfee show this year. He was kind of getting used to that whole media thing. I think this will work out well. I just think like he's the greatest head coach in college football history. All he gets to do is sit on a desk every week and explain his thoughts, and he's got lots of them. It's the same thing with Tom Brady, which we do. Like that's another one. Like you got the greatest quarterback of all time getting to explain what he sees at a football game. That's probably going to be good content.
I still want that Saban Belichick podcast. Give it to me. I need that injected into my veins.
Well, I mean, Belichick's got some time off now since he didn't get hired.
Let's talk about that. Actually, I meant to bring that up and you didn't. Bill Belichick. I mean, lots in terms of head coaching vacancies. There were a ton this year. Most years it's usually like 3 to 5. I think it was like close to double digits this year of head coaching vacancies. And the greatest coach of all time, at least in the NFL, quotation marks for that for you. I think he is, but does not get
based on accolades. Yeah,
does not get a single job spot, and he only got interviews by like 1 or 2 of these teams. I think
it's mainly Atlanta.
I think the Commanders did 1 interview, but I don't think they even did a second.
It was pretty much just Atlanta or nothing.
I mean, where does Bill go from here? The only thing I've heard lately is like if it doesn't work out for McCarthy and Dallas this year, they might go to Bill. But that's
I can't see that.
But like this might be it for Bill. This might be it for Belichick.
I mean, he's getting old.
I mean, I thought for sure. You both thought he was going to get hired. We both thought the Atlanta fit was good, which I still think that would have been a good fit. They went into another direction. But what do you think? No job for Bill.
I don't know. I think that people are just kind of worried about the last couple of years in New England. It wasn't pretty. I mean, you obviously the championships and that whole thing, but really since that whole thing fell apart, like he never handled the whole mess well after. Like the aftermath was not handled correctly. I think the whole Mac Jones thing was rushed. Drafting Mac Jones in general was rushed, and
just like Mac Jones walk to the stage was rushed when he got drafted. You remember that power walk?
Yes. But just in general, the whole process was rushed. They tried to force another quarterback in there, and the roster was never built correctly. The staff, oh my Lord, the staff was just never good.
Matt Patricia as an OC the 1 year, but
gosh, what were you thinking? Even Bill O'Brien, really, that's the best you could get. I mean, he just never handled things.
Credit his son Steve though, gets a DC job at Washington. I was happy to see that. Good.
Yeah.
Good, but here's the other thing with Bill Belichick. He's kind of like the last coach of his era of having like
the Patriot way.
The Patriot way with just like a defensive head mind go, it's my way or the highway, and I don't care about the analytics. I don't care about this high flying offense.
You don't care about his players.
We're gonna find just absolute studs on the free agent market. Just these random guys like Rex Burkhead. I don't know why that name popped into my head, but he was one of those cliche Patriots players where you never heard of him. Then he scores like 2 touchdowns. You get what you pick it up and put him down.
Yeah,
he's kind of this last coach there that we saw throughout the 2000s and the early 2010s of that like ground and pound defensive style head coach, and which they're kind of on their way out in this league. This is turning into an offensive coach league very, very quickly. I'm
telling you, the modern, I don't know what the right word is, but the popular thing to do now is you hire a young offensive coach and then an old defensive coordinator that sits up in the booth or on the sideline with his pencil and his paper, and he's the old guy that designs the defense. I could think of about 10 to 15 NFL teams that follow that scheme.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're turning to. And I think if Bill Belichick's not willing to be a defensive coordinator, which he won't, I don't know if he gets another job.
I don't know if he will. I really do. I wonder.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Well, this is really cool. I'm going to take our faces off because these two deserve all the headlines for this. How cool of an idea this. So NBA All-Star Weekend's coming up as part of the All-Star festivities.
Genius.
They're going to do a 3-point shootout between Sabrina. I'm not going to say her last name, so I don't want to mispronounce it.
Ionescu or something like that.
Just out of respect for it, I don't want to mispronounce it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Steph Curry.
Wardell Stephen
Curry. I mean, Ben, what did you think about this? I mean, like you said, absolute genius model. I mean, I think everyone was kind of a little bit tired of Stephen Curry in the 3-point contest because he's such another class above everybody else. He's like, what more do I have to prove? But this is a completely different ballgame because Sabrina actually in 3-point shootouts has been, at least in her most recent performance, more successful, has the most points ever in a 3-point shootout. She can light it up.
Yeah.
I love this concept. I'm definitely going to watch. I know you're going to watch. I'm sure lots of eyeballs are going to be on this.
I think this is just good for the game. Even if you're not a basketball fan, I think like any sport, this would be good for. If they did something like this with soccer, I mean, it would be massive for the sport. I just think the idea of merging the two and kind of closing the gap, and like even if you're not for like women's sports or whatever, like being able to like showcase
what you should be.
Yeah, what you should be. But being able to showcase both, leagues' respective talents and how, just the combination of bringing everyone together just for the love of basketball, to watch two impressive athletes shoot the lights out. And I can't do it. You can't do it. Not many people can shoot like these two people. And there's just something to be said about, like I said, it's just it's so good for the league, for the game. I don't know how this could be possibly a bad thing unless there's one caveat.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The amount of pressure that Sabrina is on for this is unbelievable. And it looks like based off her body language,
she's shooting for a whole gender.
Based off her body language or like her social media presence, she doesn't seem like she's feeling the heat all that much. And credit to her. I mean, she's one of the greatest basketball players in the world in terms of pure talent. Definitely one of the best female players in the world. But like you said, the amount of pressure. I mean, she's been in many big games at Oregon at the WNBA level. She's been in championship level games. Might be an unpopular opinion, but she may have more pressure in this than she would in those championship games, only because in those championship games, it's 5-on-5. You got 4 other ladies on your same team all fighting for the same goal. This, you got a whole gender, a whole country, perhaps a whole nation watching you, and your performance, good or bad, especially if it's bad, it's going to reflect an entire gender's ability to play sports. I mean, that is crazy amounts of pressure. And not only that, the person going up against, I don't know, maybe just the greatest person to ever shoot a basketball in the history of the world.
Yeah, the guy who's been shooting it since he came out of the womb. He's been a shooter. His dad was one of the best shooters of all time. Taught him the right way. He's been shooting thousands and thousands of shots a day since he was about 6. Like you said, the greatest guy to ever shoot a basketball. Yeah, have fun. Oh yeah, and she's shooting at the men's line.
Yeah, she doesn't have to in the rules, but I think she said she's going to shoot at the men's line just because she doesn't want any excuses, and I respect that.
Yeah, if you're gonna go for something like this, you gotta go all out, and I'm sure she's practicing for it. So I think she's gonna show up. I'm
rooting for her, honestly. I'm rooting for her.
I feel like probably Steph will win, but I hope she at least shows up. Gives them a run. Gives them a good, a show. Like at least put some respect on her.
I think she will. I do too. She's so talented. I think it'll be a fun event.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, I'm sure we haven't really talked a lot NBA. This will be our first kind of true NBA segment.
It's coming though,
because the picture is just kind of more of a metaphor, if anything. There's lots of news going on with both our teams. I guess we'll start with the bad side, then end up with the good side for you.
Well, guys. It's bad for you.
For me, I mean, for you, you're on probably cloud 9, but it doesn't really impact you too much. But
no,
you're probably still happy about, I guess, in a little bit. But my boy Joel Embiid can't stay healthy. Tore his left meniscus, and he had surgery. It looks like he should be able to be back for playoff time, but still not an ideal situation because there's going to be growing pains, healing pains coming back from injuries. Never easy, especially coming back mid-season.
And they have not looked good since he's been out.
They have not looked good at all. They're still looking to win their first game since the injury.
How many games is it?
I think at the time we're recording this, like 4 or 5.
Oh, man.
It's getting ugly. So who knows what the playoff picture even looks like when we come back. But I mean, this was a tough injury for him. It kind of sparked a little debate in the basketball world about like the games played requirement because Embiid was sitting out. He was getting a lot of pressure from the media to come back. He probably knew he wasn't fully healthy because he was missing a lot of games coming up to this, but he plays. He gets injured. He's out for a while now. His MVP case is all sealed up now. He was on a historic season, but it's over now. So I mean, this has kind of just been the story.
Who gets the MVP now? That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, that will be an interesting topic. This has kind of been the story of Embiid where all the talent in the world just cannot stay healthy. I mean, I feel for him. You hate to see a player of his talent just go down year after year after year. I mean,
you wonder how long this Embiid era will last.
Well, we're coming to the end because big men don't last long just because of how much wear and tear are on those bodies. It's hard to stay healthy. I mean, look at Greg Oden. That's a guy who never really even got to make it to the NBA because of injuries, who was a big guy. So, I mean, we're at the peak of his prime right now. I mean, I don't know how many good years of MVP caliber play we're going to see. It makes you wonder if the Sixers are running out of time. They're running out of time fast. I think the only silver lining is you have Daryl Morey, probably the most aggressive GM in the NBA. I expect the Sixers to make a couple moves coming up at the deadline.
Yeah, which is coming up real soon. I believe like the end of this week or next week.
Yeah, next week we should probably have a lot more NBA topics to talk about, which will be fun. Then on the flip side, I'll let you carry this segment because I don't even want to think or talk about it.
Why?
Because James Harden's on your team and he did it dirty.
Well, hey.
But hey, credit them, credit Ty Lue, credit your Clips because they figured it out and they're one team in the NBA and right now by far the best team in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's undeniable that I don't think they're the number one overall seed. I think the Celtics still have a better record.
But I think the Clippers are just in terms of like power rankings. They're on fire right now. They're playing.
I mean, they ever since you made the James Harden trade, it wasn't pretty at first. Okay, you started out really slow. They were like below 500 in their first like 10 games, and then they just kind of figured it out. I mean, they started to realize of what kind of who's going to play this many minutes, who's going to play with him, who's going to play here, there, and credit to Ty Lue. I think we don't put enough love. We can say all we want about the players adjusting, but Ty Lue keeping this crew together and just keeping everyone in the same page has been so incredible. But since that, I mean, like you said, they have been red hot now for about a month and a half, almost two. I think over that. I think it's been like 2.5 months. I mean, ever since like mid-December, they've just been red hot, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down.
No, they've been.
And, everyone's playing well. We just had Kawhi and PG just made the All-Star game again. James Harden is.
And they're locking up their guys long-term as well. Kawhi signed extension. Paul George, it looks like he's going to get an extension.
Harden already said he's looking at one too. So, I mean, this looks like this is going to be the core that's going to do it. And Russ has already said he plans to retire as a Clipper. And Russ has already said he'd take another pay cut to stay a Clipper, which is just what a guy Russ is. What a story this whole Clippers team is really doing. And I don't expect them to really be.
What's so fascinating about outside Kawhi Leonard, these are like guys that are known as like playoff chokers. So it would be quite the storyline if they could all on the same exact team can get over that hump for not only a franchise that can't go over the hump, but for their individual careers. Yeah. They've kind of been the guys that can't go over the hump. So it is a fascinating storyline. I think this is the most success that most of you guys have seen in their careers, at least in terms of regular season success. I mean, they're on fire right now. So interesting storyline. Look at the Clippers. Couldn't get over the hump. I mean, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George just could never get over the hump. For all those three guys to do it, especially on this franchise, if that's how it turns out, I mean, that's historic. That's storybook level stuff right there.
Yeah, and the one guy that sticks out is Kawhi.
Yeah.
And I think we're learning as time goes on. I don't know if you've seen his numbers recently and his splits, just unreal basket. I think we don't put enough love on how good Kawhi Leonard is at basketball when he's healthy. I mean, he is with the best of them. I mean, he is.
Well, he's one of the best scorers. What separates Kawhi is that he's such a lethal defender too.
Well, I think what separates him on the offensive side of the ball is the efficiency. His number, I think his shooting splits right now are like 50, 50, 90.
That's just crazy.
That's unreal for a guard.
That's like 2K on rookie mode.
Yeah, I mean, that is unreal efficiency. And he's, like you said, his defender. I mean, he is not scared of locking up your best player.
Yeah,
But I don't want to get ahead of myself with all this. I'm taking it one game at a time. Like I saw a bunch of Clippers fans celebrating last night, me included on social media, but because of this is just like such a monumental moment for the franchise. But like, as Kobe would say, job's not finished. I mean, it's not finished.
Far from it.
No, far from it. I just think it's a little moral victory.
And this is the NBA. Inevitably, they'll probably hit a slight cold streak before the final. It happens to every team. So
right.
I mean,
I'm curious to see what their seeding will be. I think if they lock up the 1 or 2 seed, I think they can really make a run.
Well, I'm really fascinated by as we get ready to wrap things up here. It's just the whole landscape of the NBA, especially on the Western Conference chain. I mean, look at teams like the Thunder have been on a tear, the Timberwolves, the Kings. I mean, we're kind of starting to enter that next wave of look at the top teams like the Lakers, the Warriors, even the Nuggets. I mean, they're still at like the 4th seed, but they were like levels above everybody else. And now we're starting to see this new wave of these younger teams starting to develop, like the Anthony Edwards, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders. These new teams are starting, and like the Clippers. I mean, they've always kind of been the kid you laugh at in the Western Conference, and now these new teams are starting to emerge, especially in the Western Conference. Eastern Conference, kind of the same two teams.
Same Bucks, big dogs.
Bucks, Celtics, and Sixers on
and then like the Heat.
Yeah,
the Cavs recently with the whole Donovan Mitchell saga. But like, yeah, I mean the East is kind of the East, but the West has been weird.
Yeah, the West is transforming. So the future of basketball is in bright hands. Any last words before we sign this off? Again, Super Bowl Sunday, man. If you're in sports betting, make some money. There's gonna be lots of bets flying around.
Not us.
Not us. At least not official. Maybe it's some under the table stuff between us.
Yeah,
we'll have to see what happens.
I was gonna say I am not using any websites. I'll be behind bars.
Yes, but I mean, hey, there'll be lots of parties. I'm sure we're gonna be doing some together. So it's gonna be a fun time. We'll see what happens. But I mean, the climax of the NFL season, then it's gonna be.
Yeah, next week will probably be the last week we talk about a NFL game.
Oh, there'll still be more NFL talk, but just
a game in months. I mean, we're talking, a long time. I mean, then we'll get into the real fun stuff. At least for me, the off season. I love the off season, but But yeah, it's been a wild season, and somehow throughout all the weird stuff that's happened, it's the same old two teams that we probably expected.
Hey, that's how it goes sometimes. But that's going to do it for the bottom line. He's been William J. Dorazio, and we come back next week. We'll have our Super Bowl coverage, and who knows what's going to be happening in the world of sports elsewhere. But until then, we'll catch you soon. Take it easy.